take me alive, Predawn.
Today I'm out at the local range and we're going to be discussing That's right, I'm going to be doing an explanation video on Bumpfire stocks and some of the most common issues people run into. So let's get started. First we'll start with the explanation of how the Bumpfire stock actually works. Now this one happens to be a Bumpski Bumpfire stock from Fostech outdoors, and it's mounted on my Wasser 10, and it's chambered in 7.62 by 39 millimeter. I just love it. I mean, I've ran so many rounds through this rifle with this stock, continuous fire. So if you don't know what a Bumpfire stock is, it simulates full auto fire. Now it's not full auto fire because you're actually activating the trigger for every round that comes out of the firearm. And so it simulates full auto fire, but I like to call it continuous fire. And it's controlled continuous fire. You can shoot 3 rounds, 5 rounds, or you can dump a whole 30-round magazine. And so, like I said, this is the Bumpski Bumpfire stock. There's many, many different ones on the market. I prefer this one because it can be switched from right hand to left hand just by changing the plate. And so here's the right-handed plate. See, it's got a plate for right-handed shooters. You want to make a bridge over the trigger. And I'm a left-handed rifle shooter, so I have the left-handed version on here, and that's why I like the Fostech. You can switch it back and forth. With other Bumpfire stocks, you have to buy 2 different stocks for left or right-handed shooters. Now the operation of a Bumpfire stock is very simple, but it's just ingenious in my opinion. And so what you have here, it's locked in single shot mode, meaning every time you charge it, every time you squeeze the trigger, it's 1 shot at a time. So it can be used as a regular stock. And it looks like a regular stock. It looks really nice. And so for Bumpfire mode, you switch it over, which allows that stock to slide on this rail. The handguard slides. This is a left-hander. So this plate's here, and that also slides. And so how this works is you charge it, you wrap your finger around the trigger, making a bridge, and putting it on the plate, which slides along this whole assembly. So you make a bridge around the trigger, set it on the plate, and what happens is when you put this to your shoulder and apply even forward pressure with your other hand on the foregrip, slides forward, activates the trigger, the recoil comes back, the rifle cycles naturally, and if you keep applying even forward pressure on the hand grip, it keeps bump firing. Now, so your hand that's on the handguard is actually what's controlling the fire of the firearm. When you're pulling forward, that is essentially on. It is firing. When you want to stop after 3, 10, 5, 8 rounds, you just let that even forward pressure off the front of the grip, and it stops firing because you're essentially taking the pressure off that trigger. You're not allowing the recoil to reset the trigger. Once again, wrap around, apply even pressure with this hand, with this up against your shoulder. It breaks the trigger, the recoil brings the rifle back, it cycles, resets, and with your finger placed on the plate still, as long as you apply even forward pressure, it just keeps firing. And so when you want it to stop firing, you just stop applying forward even pressure with this hand. And this thing works great, and I know people that have had problems with them, and we're gonna kind of go over the one and only issue I've had with this stock. So the one problem I've had with this, and I'm sure everybody else has had at one point or another with these Bumpfire stocks, is you're actually trying to make the rifle fire faster than it's capable of firing. And that can happen. How can that happen? It happens. And so what happens when this rifle tries to fire faster than it's capable of firing, you get light primer strikes. I don't know if you can see that, but there's a couple little dimples in those primers. And so what happens is the firing pin hits the primer but doesn't set the cartridge off. And so you end up with click. All you hear is click. And so how that happens is this can only fire so fast. I guess we're gonna have to take it apart for this. So pull the dust cover off. Pull the recoil spring out, just so hopefully you can see this better. So here's your hammer. There's your bolt carrier group. It's a little dirty, probably because of this damn thing. And so that's how it normally cycles. You squeeze the trigger, the hammer comes up, makes contact with the firing pin, and sets off the round. And so, since this is not a full auto rifle, it has a normal sear in it. It doesn't have a full automatic sear. And so, if you're applying too much forward pressure on this, when this is in Bumpski mode and it's sliding around, if you apply way too much pressure on here, what happens is it cycles, it comes forward, but the hammer is right up against the back of the bolt carrier group. And so it slides forward, and yes, the hammer does make contact with the firing pin, but not at normal velocity. So it doesn't set off that cartridge. It just leaves a little light tap on the primer. And so for all the people that have had problems with not getting their Bumpfire stocks to be able to run, and you get a lot of light taps on the primers, light primer strikes, you just have to put less forward pressure on the foregrip. Just even, nice forward pressure. You don't need to force it. I know it seems kind of funny because the gun is just bump firing, and so you're trying to hold on to it, but you still only want to apply even forward pressure with your hand that's on the foregrip. So let me try to explain that just a little bit slower, even for me. I'm way slow. And so what happens is you're pulling forward here, but you're pulling too hard. And so there isn't enough time for the hammer to reset after it cycles, ejects one, and then loads one from the magazine into the chamber. And so what happens is the hammer is riding the bolt carrier group forward, hitting the firing pin, but it's not hitting it with enough velocity to set off the primer, in turn setting off the cartridge. And so that's the only problem I've ever ran into with this stock. I get a little excited. I want to pull forward on this thing and I get light primer strikes. Now that's not bad. All you have to do is eject the one that didn't fire, and then put your finger back over the bridge right onto the plate, pull forward, and let it bump. And it'll run as long as you put the proper amount of forward pressure on the hand grip. Works nice. And so, that is the only problem I've had. I love this Bumpfire stock, Bumpski, Fostech, outdoors, very good product. I like the aestheticness, the aesthetics, the aestheticness. I like the aesthetics of this one. It looks like a stock. It feels like a stock. Some of the other competitors are plastic. This is aircraft aluminum, one billet piece of aluminum, and it is quality. And you can switch it from left hand to right hand. And so right now, it's left hand. Wrap my finger around the trigger, put it on the plate, pull forward, and it goes bang, 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 bang. Now to switch that on this, ooh, slides right off. Slide it off, put this one on, and it puts that plate that you rest your finger on, so this is a right-handed, around the trigger. It puts this plate on the other side, and so you have that bridge and the gun will slide. And so it's very nice. I have a right-handed setup. I have my left-handed setup, which is way better, ATI. But I have this for all them yahoos that are right-handers that want to try the Bumpski stock. And so anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned a little bit something about the Bumpfire stocks. I know people get those light taps sometimes and they can't get the stock to run with the gun and they think it's the gun. Well, it's not. You're just overzealous. You need to stop pulling so hard on the front end if you get these light taps. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and we'll see you next time.